This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and it is a Mike Tomlin Tuesday after a victory Monday. And Mike Tomlin coming out today, Matt, and saying that, doesn't look good for George Pickens this week.
I didn't hear that yet, but I knew that there was some suspicion that was the case. So
yeah.
That's not great.
Tomlin saying that, kind of explained the timeline of how everything happened, said that Pickens reported some soreness in his hamstring after Thursday's practice. They held him out Friday, or had him as a limited participant on Friday, thinking that, this will probably clear up, and then we'll see how he is on Sunday. And when he showed up on Sunday, the plan was, maybe we can manage his snap count here a little bit and only play him on weighty downs or third downs or whatever. And they then decided, now we better send him over for an MRI. They did that, and it revealed a hamstring injury that was worse than what they thought. And so they held him out of that game. Doesn't look good for this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And so life without George Pickens this week.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, obviously he's high on the list of guys you don't want to lose. They did just win a game without him and move the football, but these next couple games are stiffer tests for sure, and he is a very special player that influences coverages in your run game, and just his presence out there has a massive ripple effect. But so I'm going to step up. Not great news. I mean, this is a difficult team to play against in their building in particular, and you want all your best guys.
Yeah, so if you look at it, George Pickens has 55 catches for 850 yards and 3 touchdowns. Of course, the 55 catches and 850 yards lead the Steelers. Mm-hmm. If you take all the other receivers, wide receivers, who were active for the last game, the 5 of them, they have 52 catches for 797 yards.
Okay.
Now, they do have 6 touchdowns, though.
Yeah. But still, I mean, he's the featured guy. I mean, he's top of the league in end zone targets, all that kind of stuff, deep balls. I mean, they scheme a lot of stuff up for him. It's concerning. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, he didn't give any indication of how long-term an injury it is. I mean,
these are usually 2 to 4 weeks. Something along those lines.
Grade 2s are usually 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. And this will be week 2.
The fact that Pickens showed up, or they didn't realize how bad the injury was until they sent him for an MRI, tells me that he must have a pretty high pain tolerance.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. Like, if he wasn't jumping and screaming about it, like, it's kind of bugging me. Like, maybe he didn't even mention anything. Maybe it's been bugging him for weeks. Who knows? Just lives with it. But no, I mean, tough guy. He plays hard.
So, they'll have to do some things. But one of those things could be involving Mike Williams a little bit more.
I would think. I mean, I think that's a pretty easy.
He's their closest guy to what Pickens can do.
Yeah, I think when they traded for Williams, they envisioned the two of them on the field a lot, being a twin tower, big guy situation. But I'm sure it also crossed their mind that Pickens is high on the list of guys we can't lose, and what can we find that does some of those things? Down the sideline, end zone targets, jump balls, contested catches. So I think it's time to throw him into the fire. I mean, it was pretty much an every down type player.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see not only how the Steelers adjust to life without George Pickens for this week. We saw how they adjusted to it in game, but now that you're not going to have him this week, so you spend the entire week scheming up other things.
Right, it went down to the wire. You thought there was a good chance Pickens was going to be there. I mean, at least you have a full practice week to incorporate Williams or Zag, in that way. So I just wanted to double check it. But in that Browns game, no Steeler pass catcher had more than a 72% route share. Pickens is always right around 90. What I mean? So it was by committee for sure. I mean, Jefferson led the way with snaps, and then it was Miller, Austin, Skoranek, Williams. But they were all between 48 and 19. Yeah,
I would think that the Williams snaps flip with Scotty Miller this week.
I would think so. I would think they go up drastically.
Because, and even when we were sitting in the press box, people were wondering, why is Scotty Miller out there so much?
Yeah.
Like, well, if he's the direct replacement for Pickens in a lot of those because that's where he practiced at this week. That's what you're gonna, you know.
And I think there's a high level of trust with him too. You know, I mean, he doesn't have the highest ceiling in the world, but he can do a lot of things for you. Maybe even help on special teams if he's active in a pinch or whatever.
But to the the point when you were talking about before that the maybe they envisioned having Pickens and Williams out there at the same time. Well, if that was the plan and Williams was kind of working his way into that, he would have been a replacement for Van Jefferson.
Probably.
Not
two
Pickens.
receiver sets. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I wouldn't know without being in practice who's running in the X routes, who's running the Z routes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So when you find out an hour and a half before the game that you're not going to have a guy, you go with the replacement player because he's the one who ran those routes the most that week.
Yeah, that's a great point because we've talked about, I think we had a conversation about it last week, that wide receivers aren't all the same.
No.
I mean, it is a misnomer that an X to Z slot are all the same. A lot of guys can do all the above. You know, you look at Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb last night. Hey, put them wherever they want. They're fine. But other guys are practicing on a specific set of routes and either in motion or on the line of scrimmage.
And Pickens
is
probably that guy for the Steelers. You move him around on the formation because we see him in the slot sometimes. We see him outside. We see him, wherever.
Yeah.
Because he's their number one guy.
Yeah.
The other guys have to work around him and what he's doing on a given play.
Yeah, and being able to come up the line of scrimmage, on the line of scrimmage, against tight man coverage and that kind of thing is Pickens' specialty. Who else can do that? That's what we need to find out.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the Eagles will test you.
I would have to imagine you don't want to press Mike Williams.
I wouldn't think. I mean, he's good at the line of scrimmage with the physicality.
He's a big dude.
I mean, he's so huge and strong, obviously. What I just don't know is how well he separates against man. I think he gets off the line well against man, but I'm sure Wilson will throw him a lot of go up and get balls too.
Necessarily needs to separate because he's just, he's 6'4", probably 215 pounds. He's a big dude.
He is a big dude.
Wide shoulders and
big hands,
long
arms, and big limbs. Yeah. These corners aren't small though.
No.
Slay and Mitchell are first-round pick type guys that look the part and have length, and it's a really good group all of a sudden.
And I think honestly, this could be a game where Calvin Austin kind of, maybe he's the guy that you're sending Calvin Austin deep.
I would think
times.
I would think that he's probably the take the top off guy. I would think Williams is more of the end zone. Who would you guess leads the team in targets in Philadelphia?
Pat Freiermuth.
You think it's Freiermuth?
Yeah.
I mean, he's never
maybe it's more throws to the backs again too.
It could be. I mean, their linebacker play's gotten a lot better from a year ago, but I don't know how well they cover backs, on Tuesday yet. Freiermuth's role keeps growing and growing, which is really promising. I would think he's the answer, and then the receiver stuff's just by committee and maybe a hot hand approach or whatever.
Yeah. Depending on the situation, it's 3rd and 7. You need a quick out. Then I'd run Mike Williams on an out, things like that.
And Jefferson's kind of solid in all regards. I mean, I think he's probably your most trustworthy down in, down out.
Yeah. So I mean, they'll try to cobble something together, and they have a week to come up with a plan. So it's not like.
I'm sure they've been kicking around all weekend since they knew he couldn't go.
It very much reminds me of the situation against Detroit a couple of years ago during COVID, when Ben Roethlisberger tested positive. It was Saturday night, and then people are ripping, I can't believe they tied the Lions here. And like, you spent all week practicing like you were going to have your starting quarterback there. Yeah. Mason Rudolph took 15% of the snaps all week long as the number 2 guy, and then all of a sudden he finds out less than 24 hours before the game that he's going to start. Like, it's not going to look completely smooth there in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, this situation's definitely more palatable. You trust the coaching staff to come up with more. I don't know if you use, more 13. They did a lot of that lately.
Arthur
anyways.
Smith's been doing this basically his entire career.
Sure.
This is the kind of situation he thrives in, I think. Is, okay, you're going to have to play left-handed here a little bit. Now what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, one thing he has done and always does at every stop has been getting a lot of different people involved. And that experience is going to help. I mean, without question. I mean, they've eased. I don't want to say eased, but they haven't thrown Williams in the deep end.
No,
there's been other options, and the getting on the moving train thing applies too. But I would think now this is why we traded for you.
I mean that was November 5th, so this is December 10th. So he's been here a month.
Yeah.
So the expectation is, at the very least, you can.
He got more targets this week.
Yeah, you can dial up. Mike, what are your 10 favorite plays? What are your 10 favorite routes to run? Okay, we can work with that. Now, so it's
make that a jumping off point. Yeah. No, there's no way around it. It's a blow. I mean, it's a tough game. But big picture, I'm not saying you punt against the Eagles. Oh, who cares if you win or lose? That's not the way the world works, or the Steelers for that matter. But if you get them back for Baltimore, that's the most important game.
Yeah.
I mean, a loss here doesn't hurt you that bad. A torn hamstring hurts you real bad.
Real bad. That probably wrecks your season.
It probably wrecks your season. I mean, your playoff hopes, your Super Bowl hopes, all that kind of stuff. So if it's only a week, okay, let's see how it works. Let's get the big guy more incorporated.
Well, you already got by 1 week with him. So let's say you do go to Philadelphia and lose. Well, you went 1-1 without your most explosive offensive weapon.
Biggest playmaker, right. It's not so bad.
Yeah.
And against a really good team.
At the same time, if you look at the Eagles, they're a perfect example of the fact that you can win without your guys out there.
Mm-hmm.
How many games did they play without Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown this year?
And then Goddard. I mean, they've rarely had the three of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been very rare.
So it's been spotty this year, and yet they've won 9 games in a row.
Mm-hmm. No, they're doing a lot of good things. I mean,
they haven't been missing Saquon for any
of
those games.
The running game's the backbone of what they do, without question. I mean, their biggest weakness is passing the ball at the moment, without question. But they have a great line. They have a great running game. And they haven't been without all those guys. I mean, the day they lose Goddard, they get Smith back. There's always been 2 of the 3 at least.
And they have more of that, more star type guys.
Yeah, I mean, they have 3 pass catching stars, with Brown being the best of the group, and he's kind of being underused. I mean, they just don't throw the ball very much.
Yeah, he was asked after the game, what they need to work on.
Yeah,
at the game last Sunday, he said passing.
Yeah, he didn't say receiving.
He did not say receiving.
Right. I mean, you can take that any way you want. But I did a lot of Hurts work this morning. It's not great. I mean, he is struggling a little bit. He's not playing real crisp or fast, and people are making him hold the football, high time to throw. And I really think the Steelers are the best team in the league in devising a pass rush plan. And it won't be identical to Lamar and Jaden Daniels and those guys, but I promise you they're going to say, if you beat us from the pocket, so be it, And that'll put pressure on Porter and Jackson and Minka and all those guys, of course, too. But I bet they blitz them. I bet they keep them confined. I bet they make them pat the football and second-guess things and do a lot of different stuff to them, like they did in those 2 games.
Yeah, and if you look at what Carolina did to him.
Yeah, he didn't play well.
He didn't play well at all.
No, Bryce Young
barely threw for 100 yards.
Yeah, and, I mean, they have 6 games in a row where they have more rushing yards than passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
tough to live that way in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, he's actually been a great scrambler this year. He always is, but better than ever. He averages like 10 yards a scramble. And I think he has the second most scramble yards of all quarterbacks. But there's some weird things, too. Like, it reminds me of Baker Mayfield, where when he gets out of the pocket, he really, really, really hates going left. And his numbers going left are really, really bad. Well, you know who's on the right side.
Right. You're probably not going to go right.
Right. And there was a good article today that Ben Solak put out on ESPN and really detailed a lot of the problems. I urge everyone to check it out, and Ben does good work. But, like, what some teams are even doing is he loves rolling right so much that they'll rush their left guy up the field so he does go right while a spy just waits for him to do it and smashes him. It's kind of like, we know that you don't want to go left. You think you got us, but we know exactly what you're going to do. You're falling into the trap.
Yeah, it's like when you're playing a guy in basketball who doesn't like to go to his left a whole lot.
Sure.
You way overshade that side.
Mm-hmm. So, people are even doing the opposite.
Here it is.
Forcing him to his good side to run into the trap. But he doesn't want to go left.
Well, you can do that too in basketball. Okay, I'm going to overshade you, but I got a guy ready to jump.
Coming in.
As soon as you take that move to the right, we're jumping it.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's some of that with him in the pocket, and I definitely think the thing that Ben kept saying in the article, which really shows up, is he's not playing fast. He's playing slow. Everything's should I get rid of it? Pocket's closing in on me, getting claustrophobic. He's still a good player, but he's showing some weaknesses.
That's one thing. The last time these two met. Out in Philadelphia, ironically enough, 2 years ago. That game ended up 34-13, and if you remember, A.J. Brown had 3 long touchdowns in that one. Where he was just throwing it up and letting A.J. Brown run under it. hasn't been a lot of that this year.
No, it hasn't at all. And A.J. Brown's been a little bit of the squeaky wheel. I mean, maybe they do more of that. Like, Jalen, just trust these dudes. These guys are really good. I haven't given a ton of thought, but I think you put Porter on Brown and Jackson on Smith. And body types work better that way, too. You know, I mean, Jackson's leaner, you know, fast, much more like Smith. But those guys will be tested a lot. I
would probably shade Minka over Brown as well. Just if you remember the last game, there was one Minka had kind of go through his hands that Brown caught, that he was there.
Oh, yeah. And it could have easily gone either way.
Yeah.
And the other thing Hurts is not doing is the intermediate stuff or the middle of the field, hardly at all.
Well, that's not going to be any better without Goddard.
Exactly.
You know, Grant Calcaterra, who's a nice player.
He's okay. Yeah, he's a good story.
But he's not Dallas Goedert.
No, not at all. So I would think you're expecting balls outside the numbers. You know? And he's been good at them, and those receivers are good at them, but maybe you blitz him a little bit more and trust Porter on an island here and there or whatever, you know.
The interesting thing about them this year is if you look at Saquon Barkley.
It's bonkers, yeah.
Saquon, the runner, has been awesome.
Awesome.
The
receiver's been underutilized.
I was just going to say, as a receiver, I mean, you're talking about a guy who last year with the Giants caught 41 passes. Mm-hmm. The year before that, he caught 57. The year before that, 41. He had 91 in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is a really good receiving back. He's got 317 catches for his career. He's got 29 this year.
Yeah. You know, like, we talk about fantasy a lot, and I had Barkley as, like, my 7th running back in this before the season started. I'm like, awesome talent, great O-line, but Hurts is going to plunge all his short yardage stuff.
Yeah.
And Hurts never throws the backs because he just tucks it and runs. Well, I was right, but I didn't expect him to run for 2,200 yards to break Eric Dickerson's record and have long touchdown after long touchdown.
He's scored touchdowns, yeah.
I mean, they score a lot of rushing touchdowns.
Despite that, I mean, he doesn't have more than – he has one game with 5 targets this year. One. That was in week 2.
That might be a better way. I mean, if I'm their staff with Goddard out, let's just get Hurts some easy completions and get his confidence back. And this pass rush is worse than most we deal with.
But last week, he had tied his season low last week against Carolina with 1 target.
Yeah.
That was the first game he had no catches at all this season.
I wonder I'll look into it, but I wonder what percentage of 3rd and longs he's out there. Like, he should never leave the field. No. And he's way better than the second guy, but most running backs don't play 100% of the snaps either. I mean, there's some situation that they're getting him out of there. He's kind of known as a poor pass blocker over his career, too. He never had to do it at Penn State, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you're too good.
But he's averaging 9.2 yards a catch.
I know he has some long ones, too, yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to use that?
I know. I would think that's a back to the drawing board thing.
Yeah, he had 60 targets last year with the Giants. He has 38 right now.
And they probably run a lot more plays in Philadelphia. They get the ball a bunch and create a lot of first downs. And
I mean, the guy's he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. That leads the league.
Which is nuts, yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. Derrick Henry was about 150 yards ahead of him for the rushing lead. Well, now he's 200 yards rushing ahead of Derrick Henry.
Yeah. I mean,
it's been insane. Blew right by him.
He's got some kind of streak going of 100-yard games. It's 5 in a row or something like that, which is awesome.
He's got 4 in a row.
4 in a row.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a 66-yard game against Dallas, but it's actually 7 out of the last 8.
Wow.
With at least 107 yards. And that includes there's a 176-yarder in there. There's a 159. There's a 255. There's a 146. You can't let that happen.
Yeah. He has 9 games this year with 100 yards or more on the ground. And he is getting his carries, though. He has 20 or more carries in 6 of his last 9 games. Yeah. And a lot of those, they have a big lead late. And he got him there, you know?
Yeah.
He might be MVP this year.
He's playing really well, and you can't let him go crazy in this game if you're the Steelers. And that's the fine line that you have to walk against this Eagles team. They don't throw the ball a lot.
No, but they're scary dudes.
But when they do, they got scary dudes on the outside, and then you've got to deal with this guy.
Yep, 100%.
And the quarterback running.
And the quarterback's
a handful.
So he's doing 10 yards a scramble right now and picking up first downs on 56% of his scrambles. I mean, he's doing it at right times and all that stuff, too. There's not a great answer. I mean, there really isn't. Keeping him in the pocket and throwing is your best shot, but they're going to move football.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a much different method, but it's kind of like the Bengals conversation.
It's going to be I don't put it this way. I don't expect maybe either team, unless this turns into a one side of the fair one way or the other, I don't know that either team in this game is going to want to throw the ball 35 times.
I wouldn't think so. You would hope you don't have to.
30 might be a lot.
Yeah. You would hope you don't have to.
Right.
What's crazy about this Eagles team is they're unbelievably bad in the first quarter.
Yeah.
They score very, very few points, like historically bad. But then all the others are great. Obviously, they're a high-scoring team. But their defense is really, really good, too. Like, jumping up 10-0 on them is not as easy as you think.
Yeah. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, I'm wondering here if the Steelers can't do what they typically do in a lot of these situations and muddy the game up a little bit.
Yeah, against
this team. And here's the thing: talking about some of the deep passing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking here at all their touchdowns. Against Green Bay in Week 1, they're down in Rio. They hit a 67-yard pass to A.J. Brown from Jalen Hurts. Week 4 against Cleveland, it was a 45-yarder against the Browns. He also had a A.J. Brown hit against the Giants in Week 5 to A.J. Brown, 41 yards. 45 yards against Cincinnati, and then none.
Yeah.
If you look at their last, what is that, about 18 touchdowns, 1-yard rush, 14-yard pass, 5-yard pass, 8-yard rush, 1-yard rush, 23-yard rush, 39-yard rush.
I say some Saquon, the long ones would be him.
The long ones are all Saquon now.
Yeah.
6-yard pass, 70-yard rush, 13-yard rush, 72-yard rush, 17-yard pass, 1-yard rush, 25-yard run, 1-yard run, 4-yard pass, 4-yard pass.
Yeah.
The big play is missing in the passing game for them.
It really is. I mean, Saquon's, they're explosives.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. It's kind of like the Browns conversation or the Steelers conversation, Winston or without, Wilson or without. But it happened earlier to them, but it's the same quarterback. It's after Week 3, I think.
He hasn't had a long he had a 25-yard touchdown pass against Jacksonville on November 3rd. And they don't have a touchdown pass of more than 17 yards since.
Yeah.
That's over a month.
And they've missed some of their guys, but they've always had one of their guys.
At least one, yeah.
I mean, they're not the worst receiving core in the league.
And they played Dallas, they played Washington, they played the Rams.
Yeah.
They played Baltimore, they played Carolina. I mean, that's 5 games worth of game, or 5 games, and you haven't had an explosive touchdown pass.
So, again, I mean, we talk about this a lot. We talk about the draft season a lot. Teams tell you what they're thinking by their moves, not necessarily the words that come out of their mouth. You know? I mean, and where I was going with the line of demarcation with the Hurts stuff, he threw 3 picks in the first 2 games. He's only thrown 1 since.
Yeah.
But it was like Week 3 or so that they just took everything off his plate. I mean, they basically said, we don't really trust you anymore. And we got all these other things. This Saquon dude's even better.
We're paying this guy money. Let's ride him.
Let's ride him. And I think you need to put the onus of the game on Hurts. And again, if that means playing cover 0 and begging him to throw deep, it's scary.
It's definitely scary.
And
you got to trust your quarterbacks.
Right, yeah. But, okay.
And you got to trust Minka in those situations.
Yeah, or Minka's not even back there. I mean, I think blitzing him, varying things, making him pat that football in the pocket is exactly what the Eagles don't want you to do. They have so many good players, though. I think they have the best set of tackles in the league. So an advantage you have, I still think the Steelers D-line has an advantage over every O-line in the league, including the Lions, and I would put the Eagles at number 2. But this is the best set of tackles you're going to face probably in, years.
Yeah.
So that could be good and bad. I mean, it's definitely bad.
That being said, Hurts has still been sacked 35 times this year.
His time to throw is long. He doesn't feel comfortable in the pocket. He'll roll out when he doesn't have to. He feels pressure that's not there. He doesn't feel pressure that is there.
Their sack percentage is almost 10.
And their pressure percentage is really high, too. Pressure's allowed and those type of things.
So what that means, folks, is that 1 out of every 10 pass attempts, is a
Ends up
sack for them.
It's really high.
And they don't throw the ball a lot.
Right. It's one of the reasons. I mean, he was throwing interceptions early in the season. He's been taking sacks. There's too many negatives in their passing game and not enough explosions. To your point, I mean, the fact that he's only thrown 1 pick since week 3 or 2 is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's also because he's being governed. You know,
we're also 13 games into this, and he's got 16 touchdown passes.
Right.
With A.J. Brown,
Goddard,
Devonta Smith and Dallas Goddard, and you went out and traded for
Godwin. And, Right. I mean, they drafted 2 receivers, too. And, yeah, it's 100% true what their formula is. They don't even hide it, but they're good at it. You know what I mean? So, back to the tackle thing, this might be one of the teams that just says,
we're not going to help.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we're going to try to.
That could be good and bad.
As I say, it could be good and bad. I mean, like, it's never great to play great players. You know, I mean, it's going to be more difficult. But these 2 tackles are awesome, and they don't help them. You know, they don't have to. You know, I mean, a lot of the time. This week they will more than most, but Lane Johnson's going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, because
so is T.J. Watt.
Right.
So that's a Hall of Fame matchup.
Exactly. I mean, he handles left defensive ends all the time. You know, Parsons, whoever it is.
Well, here's the thing about that, though. You can handle a guy. Let's say you
coming
play
back to the pass rush plan.
Yeah, let's say you play 55 snaps or 50. Let's say 50 snaps in offensive snaps, and that's low.
Yeah, but it's a nice round number.
If you're the offensive lineman and you win 45 of those snaps,
should be a great day.
Right. But if the defensive guy wins 5 of those, blows up 2 running plays, and hits your quarterback.
And one of them was a strip sack.
You had a bad day.
Yeah, the offense the protection had a bad day. Yeah. No coach would be like, oh, I'll take that. You know, like, no, of course not. Right.
Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
No. I mean, even if he's moving Watt time and time again in the run game and Barkley's running behind him, or he's, alone against him and doing well for 45 snaps. Right. And I wonder, are they going to blitz up the gut a lot?
I think it's a big Landon Roberts game.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't run as well to keep up with Barkley, but he sets the tone.
He sees stuff.
Yeah, and I think coming downhill, and their guards and centers are good, too, don't get me wrong. I mean, Stoutland's a phenomenal coach, and they took Mekhi Becton from the Jets and have turned him into a pretty good guard, even though he's 6'7", 6'8", or whatever. I mean, he's still not as good as Dickerson on the other side, and Juergen certainly isn't Kelsey. But I think I want to get bodies in Hurts's face and make him throw the football or hold the football. Like, I just want to mess with him and throw a lot of stuff at him.
Yeah,
and
the Steelers are really good at that.
I think they're the best in the league at it.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of constructing a pass rush plan. These edges aren't going to run past him and let him run. They're going to boa constrictor him. Yeah,
it's almost a Lamar plan.
Exactly.
But you want to constrict this guy in the middle too, and that's where guys like Cam Hayward could come into
absolutely.
Into play here.
I think Cam I'm sure will have a great game no matter what. But if I'm them, he's the guy I'm most worried about.
Yeah,
just because of Lane Johnson. But Dickerson
on the other side,
right? They're really good. But Hurts is going to throw not over the middle. So the ball's going to travel a long distance, and if I can constrict him in the pocket 3.5 seconds into the snap, and he's patting it, eyes are dropping, you got a chance.
I would even try some delayed blitzes and things of that nature up the middle. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're going to try to help on Cam with the center,
right?
Up, and just go.
Mm-hmm. Maybe even more stunts and stuff. They don't do a lot of stunning and twists and stuff like that too, but. Maybe,
I would even, and this might be a good game to, move TJ around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let him, maybe it's not a stunt, but I'm rushing him. We saw last week against the Browns when Herbig was in the game with Watt and Highsmith. A lot of the times what they were doing, because they knew that the Browns were going to try to help on Watt.
Sure.
That's where your extra help was at.
Yeah.
So they put Herbig on the same side as Watt.
Yeah.
They did it 2 or 3 times. And, okay, you're going to put 2 guys over here? We're going to rush these 2 guys off of this edge.
Mm-hmm.
Herbig's going to take, you're going to be putting a back on Herbig.
That's a plan.
That's a plan.
Right.
And your offensive tackle is going to have to, handle Watt by himself. Now, it's, there's different things you can do with those kind of packages.
Absolutely. And pass rush plan is going to be one of my key words of the week for sure. But that's a great way of doing it, too, is it's such an advantage for Austin and the defensive staff to know their protections are going to roll that way.
Yeah.
You know, this week it might be less because of Lane Johnson.
So
if
they try to do that and you go with that 3 outside linebacker package, and now all of a sudden you got Lane Johnson over there, and he's got Herbig and Watt.
Right.
Like, which one's he picking up? Because if he doesn't go get Herbig,
I mean, I don't want Calcaterra or Barkley even. I mean, again, Barkley's not great in protection.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want either one of those guys dealing with your edge dude.
And if they put Kenneth Gainwell out there, that's a win.
That's a home run, yeah. Absolutely. Or their other tight ends.
Right.
Not that Calcaterra is great, but you're on your third string tight end then.
Right,
you know?
yeah. So there's some different things you can do to win that particular part of the equation, to win that part of the chess match. And that's what this is going to be.
Oh, it's going to be, yeah. And you hope you don't get Hurts' best day where he's completing those long ones to A.J. Brown or, or he's playing in rhythm because he hasn't lately.
No, I mean, just keep him off that rhythm.
I mean, the beauty of it is Carolina, I forget Everose's name. Carolina's defensive coordinator for the last 2 years has been brought up in head coaching conversations.
He was the guy they kept from the old staff. They didn't let him leave.
Yep. He just doesn't have any good players, so he's not going to become a head coach because his defense stinks. Because they don't have anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek Brown's even out, their best dude. But he divulges good plans. So if you look at it's nice that he went before you.
Yeah, you take some of that, and you're doing it with better players.
He's doing it with pawns, and you have a queen and a rook, and you have stuff that actually can do damage. So, but the Eagles know this stuff too.
Right, they're going to work to. Hey, what did we struggle with last week? We better get ready to. We're going to see that stuff again.
Tomlin's going to drive it down our throat, with their guys. But so we better be better at it.
But that doesn't mean that just because you're better at it or you're more prepared for it, because they're doing it with better players.
Doesn't mean you can hit Paul Skeens' fastball even though it's coming.
No, you can know. Hey, fastball coming.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan in the hill. Like, I'm throwing the heat. Do what you can.
Defensively,
but obviously they're very dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean obviously.
Defensively, they've been very good over the course of the season.
They seem to be getting better and better.
Here's the thing, though, Matt. Last week against Carolina, they gave up 118 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
The week before that against the Ravens, it was 166. Now, I understand the Ravens run against everybody.
Yeah.
But they really
Carolina does too now.
They hadn't been running the ball super effectively in recent weeks.
No. And I do think they prefer to play like most teams. They prefer to be a nickel. They prefer to be, a four-man front, 2 linebackers, is their preferred method. They want to be attacking. They usually play with a lead. But their D-line's good, but I do think you can move them with those type of O-lines. Like, Panthers have guards. They overspent like crazy on guards. And Ikwonu and those guys. I think the Steelers are sort of built similarly.
Some of the teams that they've really shut down, they shut down the Giants, 119 total yards in that game.
Yeah. Bad O-lines.
They shut down the Cowboys with Cooper Rush at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They had 146 yards. So those two games kind of skew. The defense has been good. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it is, and it's getting better and better.
But some of those numbers are skewed by those two games in particular. They held Jacksonville to 215 yards without Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. Yeah.
So they've gotten some quarterback luck there as well.
Sure. So I don't know how to take this exactly. Yeah, I'm always into what personnel groupings are teams attacking you with. Like, opponents come out in 11 against the Steelers a lot. That's how they choose to start the game. Now, the Eagles are seeing 11 at the league's highest rate. Like 73% of the snaps when they're on defense is against 3 wide. Now, obviously, offensive coordinators think that's our best path to victory. But I'm kind of looking at it from the flip side that they see 12 personnel and 13 personnel at the 25th highest rate, which we know the Steelers
are going to
love to play. I mean, they're number 1 in 13. So is it one of those things like these teams have never seen a fullback, don't know what gaps to take? You know what I mean? Like, or are they just great against it I bet they're not. They have seen very, very little 13 personnel. I mean, under 1% of their snaps has been against 13 personnel.
Well, here's the thing. So I'm looking at their depth chart here on our lads.
Mm-hmm.
They only have 5 big guys on defense, because they play a 3-4.
Did they list it as a 3-4?
Yeah. Okay. And so the Steelers are very comfortable running 12 or 13 personnel against a 3-4. They do it all summer long.
Of course. And they want get your big bodies on the field.
Yeah.
You know.
And here's the thing, like one of those guys, and I love the player, but one of those guys is Milton Williams.
Yeah, he's a small.
Who's an undersized
upfield athlete. Yeah.
So
they have all kind of shapes and sizes.
Yeah, they really do. Now, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are massive human beings.
Davis in particular.
Yeah.
Carter's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the backups are Moro Ajomo and Thomas Booker. That's what they got.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can make Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter,
and they don't want Davis to play a ton of snaps.
Play a lot of snaps,
He still wears
because down. So maybe I do want to go big personnel against these guys and keep him on the field. I want to wear his butt out.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not like, even though they're seeing a ton of 11, you don't have Pickens, and apparently they're not bad defending it because all their defensive numbers are great, even though they get a ton of it. I think it's a heavy 13 game. I mean, let's get all their big guys out there.
And if you do that, you also keep Cooper DeJean off the field.
Mm-hmm. Who's a really good. He's become like a do-it-all nickel type guy. People, right?
Not that we're shocked by that.
We loved him. Right,
loved him.
Yeah. But no, I think that's a good strategy, without doubt. Another thing that's kind of odd too is they don't give up a lot of yards after the catch. Like they're a good tackling team.
Yeah.
There's some of that kind of stuff too that's pretty obvious with them.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe the way to attack these guys is to go big personnel and say, okay, we're just going to play big boy football all day long, and I want Jordan Davis playing 45 snaps or 50.
Oh, yeah.
Has he done that all year? Probably not.
I bet not.
Because he's probably not out there in their nickel and dime.
No. I mean, in passing situations, it's definitely Williams and Carter.
Yeah.
And as good as Carter is, I wanted to double-check this too, but his snap count hasn't been super high. I think they keep rotating these guys. Okay, here it is. Yeah. He's played 50 or more snaps now in 4 straight games after only having one of those in the first 9 games. So he's getting better and better, and he's the straw that stirs the drink. I mean, he's a total stud. But I don't know. I think to your point, they don't want Ajomo and those guys out there at times.
Right now, yeah. So right now, he's played 83% of their defensive snaps.
Okay. Which is a lot for defensive tackle.
A ton for a defensive tackle. That's kind of what Cam Hayward did in his prime.
Yeah.
If you look at the other defensive tackles, Milton Williams has played 46.6% of the snaps, and Jordan Davis is at 38.6.
Yeah, that's about where they want him.
That's where they want those guys. Ojomo's at 33.9, so basically 34%, and
the other dude,
Thomas Booker's at 13%. So I'm going to get big against these guys and make them, again, they only have 5.
And people haven't done that against them.
And the other thing about it is if you do that, you're keeping guys like Brandon Graham off the field a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. He's become more of a designated pass rusher at his age. And he's still really effective.
Now, that also means you have to win. You have to be able your guys have to fall, your running backs have to fall forward.
Exactly.
If it's a 3-yard gain, it's a 3-yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get a second 3-yard gain, okay, it's 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
And then Russell, now it's incumbent upon Russell Wilson to get the ball to the right guy on 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
And convert.
And eat clock. And I mean, I think that goes a long way, too, against this group. Again, not an easy unit to play against at all. There's a reason these guys have won a lot of games in a row. But I think that would be my plan of attack on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
What we kind of laid out here so far. The more we talk through it, I kind of use their advantage that they haven't dealt with a lot of tight ends on the field.
Yeah. I also don't mind and this is a different aspect here. C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
Likes to run his mouth a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's like the agitator on.
So I don't mind not having George Pickens out there not to get agitated.
Yeah. You'd rather he's out there, of course, but imagine.
Yeah, you'd rather have him, but that might turn into a fist fight. Because guys have been known. Gardner Johnson has punched guys, and guys have been known to punch him. On his own team.
Yeah, he used to get in fights with like Michael Thomas in practice, fist fights and stuff. Yeah, he's a guy you love. He's
a jerk.
But he's a jerk. Absolutely.
I'd like to use a different word for that. But,
yeah. So I wonder. I need to look into with two corners on the field is going to be Slay and Mitchell.
Yeah,
DeJean's the slot, but they also have him out there a fair amount.
Well, and this free safety Reed Blankenship is hurt.
Okay.
So you're probably looking at either Tristan McCullum out there.
Okay. Did they list Gardner Johnson as a safety?
Yeah, he's the starting strong safety.
He's done a lot of slot stuff in his career too.
But now they use DeJean for that.
Right. So. And have upgraded, right?
Yeah.
But they got a lot of versatile athletes there in the back end too. And I mentioned Bond. He's been great. I mean, the Saints drafted him and kind of rushed him off. He's a lot like Herbig, to be honest.
Another one of those Wisconsin guys.
Yeah, he had a real similar career to Herbig, except he couldn't hold up at the point like Herbig does, and he's not as good a pass rusher. So the Eagles moved him off the ball, and he's been one of the best linebackers in the league.
Yeah.
And then the Georgia guy's been good too. So Nakobe Dean.
It'll be interesting to see how if that's what the Steelers choose to do here. I would guess that's what they try to do here, but
yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, I think a lot of tight ends on the field.
Yeah. So and the Steelers have a lot of tight ends.
Yeah, right.
So why not?
You don't play against Darnell Washington all that often.
No, you do not. Let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. We just gave you the game plan.
There we go.
Now we'll see if the Steelers do that. Yeah. But we're going to take a break. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And this is the Drive on the Steelers audio network. And, of course, you can hear the Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Right here on these very airwaves, or you can download the Steelers mobile app and listen to it there. It's downloaded directly to your phone. You can listen to it whenever you want.
Jump on that, yeah.
And do that. Or you can watch on YouTube. You can listen on YouTube and leave us comments about the show.
Mm-hmm. Plenty of you do.
Plenty you do. Yep. Yeah, lots of good stuff on there. Matt, we're talking about this game this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the one area for sure where the Steelers, and they typically do, but the one area for sure that the Steelers have an advantage is at place kicker.
Yes. This guy doesn't make any 50-yarders.
None. He's 0 for 5.
Yeah.
0 for 5.
Yep.
And Jake Elliott's a pretty good kicker. He's only missed one kick inside of 50 yards.
Yeah. I wonder if he's just getting that point of his career, the Vinatieri point of his career.
Yeah.
You're just a short yardage guy,
So, there's that advantage. And Philadelphia's punter is Braden Mann, who, of course, was here in training camp a couple of years ago with the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Danny knows that he's a little slow or
doesn't do this
like
real well, doesn't do that. Yeah,
right.
And he could have gotten better at some things. And he's kicked well
but
this
it's just
year.
Like any position, if if they played against Kenny Pickett, they'd know how to play against him too.
They would know.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so that's just a little interesting.
Who's on this team, by the way? I didn't think of that.
Yeah, a little sidebar there. That if something happens there with this stuff, that maybe you can take advantage of that particular aspect of the game. And the Steelers have been really good for the most part on special teams all season long.
And it'll shock nobody. I mean, the Steelers are whatever advanced scouting or metric group you want to use. They're the first or second in the league in special teams, top to bottom. I double-checked Philly. Again, I'm not going to watch their special teams tape, folks, and trust me on that. But they're like right in the middle of the league. So I was hoping they were terrible, but they're in the middle of the league. The long-distance kicking has been a big problem for them.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot. The world of kicking seems to be changing rapidly. Like there's so
during
many guys.
The season.
Yeah. There's so many guys that make 50s like nothing. But then there's a couple of these dudes like the Eagles, the whole Steelers division outside of Pittsburgh that have some kicker problems that don't usually have kicker problems,
Yeah. If you look at there are two kickers in the division who have missed 10 kicks this year.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Cleveland and Tucker.
Yeah, that's crazy. And even Cincinnati's playing with a backup, last night.
And Cleveland gave, I can't even think of the guy's name now.
It's not York, because
No,
York was kicking last night.
That's
he was a Brown. He's been on like 4 teams in 3 years.
He's now kicking for the Bengals.
Yeah.
It'll come to me at some point. They gave him money in the offseason.
Yeah, they went out and got him.
Because he was supposed to fix their problems. He's missed 10 kicks.
So I know this is a short segment, but I should know this. But as good as Waitman's been, what does that mean for next year? Is Johnston under contract?
Yes.
I thought he was a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
And I adored him in camp.
Yeah.
It's hard to trade a punter, but I would hate to just see Waitman leave for nothing. You know what I mean? And
he's the younger player.
Yeah, I guess so.
By a lot.
I mean, you'd save cap money
by
and all that
years
stuff too.
One thing that's gone kind of unnoticed with Corliss Waitman this year, and wouldn't you know, the Browns today cut Kadarius Toney. Just released him.
He's going to set records for the number of teams he's on.
But somebody brought this up to me a few weeks ago. I was doing something on special teams or whatever. I can't remember who it was. I can't even remember who said it. But they were talking about Waitman and the fact he's a left-footed punter.
Yeah.
Puts a different spin on the ball
Oh, that's a Belichick thing forever.
Yeah, and that's why you see some of these muff punts.
Yeah. I mean,
it has a different spin on it.
I think like 90% of Belichick's punting snaps
were always
left-footed.
left-footed
Guys,
yeah.
right? It's like a left-handed pitcher, but way rarer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what percentage of NFL or Major League pitchers are
Yeah, it's not
lefties.
like you can even, hey, let's bring in a left-footed punter this week. We're playing the Steelers. Like,
right. No.
Where are they?
Yeah, I think both these guys have a lot of value. You know, I mean, Johnson, unfortunately, is injured, but I loved him in camp. He was really special to me.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah,
So,
unbelievable.
And then they did a great job finding Waitman. So
yeah,
those guys will both be NFL punters next year.
No doubt
There's
about
no
it.
question.
Yeah,
right.
no doubt about it. But anyways, let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is the drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And Matt, well, we're on to week 15.
Yeah, it's fantasy playoff time.
Which means that is fantasy playoff week. So before we get into that too deeply here, let's look ahead at the schedule here.
Yeah, I don't know it great yet.
And see who plays where and when. And there's nobody on a bye.
Mm-hmm. You talk about streaming defenses, is that what we're doing here?
We're streaming defenses, looking at the proper matchups here that we think you can exploit.
Yeah.
Thursday night, everything kicks off with the Rams at the 49ers.
Good one. I mean, definitely winner go home for the Niners. I mean, the little that they have left is clinging by a thread.
That could be a high-scoring affair.
That could be a high-scoring affair. I think so, too. I mean, the Rams are humming right now. Familiarity. I don't think I want either defense.
I don't want either defense in that. That could be 31-30.
Yeah.
You get the Cowboys are at the Panthers. How about this one? Carolina's favored for the first time this year.
Are they? They've played
They're
better.
playing better.
Yeah. I probably would take Dallas, but I mean, I didn't think Dallas was bad last night.
I don't want to start either defense, so.
I don't think. We think that's going to be high scoring? Moderately.
Panthers have been putting points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about Parsons sacks and things like that, but they protect well and get it out. I don't love either defense.
And the Cowboys moved the ball well enough last night against.
Oh, yeah. And they're starting to run the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dowdell's been good.
The Chiefs are at the Browns.
I think it's no and no. Chiefs D's probably okay. Probably get an interception.
Yeah, maybe.
Sack.
Jameis at home, though, plays better.
I know. I say he's gonna score points and throw
might
for
be
yards.
my upset special this week.
Browns win that one.
Browns might win that one.
I don't think the Browns are a pushover.
No, especially in their stadium.
I bet it's 4 or 5 point spread, something like that.
It's more than that, 6.5.
Is it really?
Yeah, I definitely take the points.
Yeah, I thought it should be like 3.
The Dolphins are at the Texans. Usually, you would start the Texans defense, but
right. I like what Miami's doing a lot, and it's not going to be a weather game, obviously.
Yeah.
Miami's D's been okay.
I think there'll be some points in that game.
I do too. I don't like either one of those. A couple of these teams, I think I mentioned it yesterday. If so, I apologize. But I think a late bye is going to be good for Baltimore, Houston. A couple of these teams that are talented in the mix that are continuing to make some of the same problems, like penalties or pass protection, assignments have been bad. You weather the 12-week stretch, but now you get that late bye. You could figure some things out.
The problem with the bye is the coaching staff may figure some things out, but because of the way these things are built now,
it's not like they're in there grinding.
You don't really get a chance to practice
right
during that bye week. And maybe because you're so beaten up at this point in the season, you don't want to practice.
Oh, I bet. Just get away.
Yeah. The Jets are at the Jaguars. Playing the Jets defense?
Not playing the Jags.
No.
I guess
Can't
the
play
Jets.
the Jags.
Jets versus Mac Jones, I guess, is okay. Not a lot of trust in that team overall, though.
No.
No.
The Commanders are at the Saints.
I don't think Carr's going to play.
I don't think he is either. So
I would say Commanders D.
Yeah.
Is a sneaky streamer. Not the Saints D.
No. The Ravens are at the Giants. Well, you're going to play. You're going to play the Ravens.
They're
defense.
probably in a league already.
They're
but yeah.
14. They're already 14.5 point favorites. It
I
probably
get it.
goes up.
I bet it. Yeah, Giants are in a terrible place.
This is the kind of
right
game
now.
that the Ravens go in and just blow the doors off.
Yeah, and just run all over a non-Dexter Lawrence.
It looks
team
great, and everybody starts talking about, Lamar's the MVP again. Well, he played a bad Giants team.
Yeah, they should
trying to
roll those
lose.
guys. But no, Ravens D for sure.
The Bengals are at the Titans.
Those are two No. Bengals D's too bad. Last night wasn't hideous, but they're too bad for me to ever check that mark for a playoff matchup.
I might start the Titans because Joe Burrow gets hit.
He does get hit, and he hurts.
And the other thing about this is don't forget, Tennessee's head coach Callahan.
Oh yeah,
was their coach.
Was massive familiarity.
Yeah, there's a big familiarity there. They're not going to.
I like the Titans D.
I just don't know that Zach Taylor is. How can I put this kindly? I don't know that he's smart enough to completely.
That's not kind.
Change things up. And go, well, but I called the plays.
Yeah.
He was my offensive coordinator, but I called the plays, so he really doesn't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Burrow's scared. I mean, I think there could be sacks and stuff like that, but
Burrow got beat up again last night.
Big time. I don't know if he'll play Week 18. That's a side note. I mean, his body's going to be really sore by then. He's nursing a handful of things.
His house got robbed last night.
Did it really?
Yeah.
The Batmobile.
Well, he doesn't have that yet, apparently, but. There's apparently the NFL sent out a memo to all the teams 2 weeks ago that there's a crew that apparently is targeting NFL players' houses.
Okay.
So when they know you get a standalone game, I know where Joe Burrow is going to be at 8:00 on Monday night.
Pretty safe.
Pretty safe that he's not going to be there, and they've been breaking into NFL players' houses.
I would think NFL players have really good security.
You would think.
Yeah, right.
But if they're traveling, this happened to somebody else earlier this season.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys are obviously thinking this out. It's a high-tech organization of some type.
So I'm trying to think like a master criminal here. First of all,
just imagine if criminals like that put their minds to doing something positive.
Well, hey, just be good at whatever you're good at. I mean, it doesn't.
I could do something much more positive that might help humanity. That doesn't land my butt in jail eventually.
Oh yeah, but being with the Browns, and I'm sure you know this from just being close to Steelers. So many of these guys, of course, aren't from the city that drafts them.
Correct.
And these teams have services like. Courtney Brown lived next to our head coach. Like there was a neighborhood of all the rich Browns. They all lived on the same street, and they all were set up through the league or through the team.
Yeah,
I bet they all have the same security systems. That's what I'm going with it. Like if I can get the inside scoop, I can knock out all the Browns at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
insider stuff.
Think
like a master criminal.
Apparently, you're better at that than me.
Thanks.
Where are we at here? So,
Burrow got robbed. I'm not playing either one of those defenses.
I don't want to play either one of those defenses, but if I had to play one, and I'm not seeing a lot of streamers on here.
No, it's not been good so far.
I mean,
I like the Titans D. I just love the Bengals offense.
I think the Titans may run the ball all day long against Cincinnati's defense. That might end up being a
Pollard should have a nice game.
It might be a little slower scoring game than what the Bengals are used to. And when they've actually won games for the most part, they haven't given up a bunch of points. Last night was the most points they've given up, I believe, in a win this year. They might have 24 against somebody earlier this year.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So they don't. I don't know. I just think that it might get held down a little bit.
Maybe.
And they just played Monday night. And now they're going to go on the road again.
Is that a road game?
Yeah. The Patriots are at the Cardinals.
I guess the Cardinals D's, but it's starting to look pretty rough and beat up. But you start everyone basically against the Patriots, I'd say. But like Drake May's kind of a sneaky start, coming off a bye. I'm not starting the Patriots D.
No. The Colts are at the Broncos.
Broncos.
You're going to start the Broncos are an every week start.
I don't love the Colts either. I mean, we're not coming up with 12.
That's what I'm saying. Right. The Titans don't look so bad now.
I hear you. Right.
The Bills are at the Lions. No.
Yeah. What's the over on that game?
Yeah.
Like 100.
The Buccaneers are at the Chargers.
Chargers. That's a good offense.
You're counting on
Bucs
Baker to
D's
throw
been
you
pretty
a couple.
bad this year.
It's been pretty bad, yeah.
But without McConkey, they don't have much teeth.
There'll be points in that game.
There'll be points in that game. Like you don't have. I mean, Herbert will be fine.
Yeah.
Chargers are hard to bench.
Steelers are at the Eagles.
Not the Steelers. I mean, they're better than most of the ones we've mentioned.
I think this could
not
be
the best matchup for them.
I think this could be a lower scoring game.
a key, and I know it's only Tuesday.
It might be like 20-17 or.
I wonder what kind of weather are in some of these towns.
It's going to be.
Maybe you can sneaky get some bad weather games.
Weather isn't supposed to be an issue in Philadelphia. I know. I
just mean across the.
Yeah.
For all our
I haven't looked at all that, but I know
yeah.
in this game, weather's not going to be an issue.
Okay. I don't love either, but I think you could do worse. I'm not cutting either one of these guys.
No,
you know.
No, you're definitely not going to cut them.
I mean, there could be sacks.
The Packers are at the Seahawks.
I don't love that either.
Right.
Seattle's D, I think, is one of the best in the league.
But I'm not starting them against the Packers.
No, but it's probably in the top 12. I think some of these ones you just have on your roster and you live with it and bite the bullet.
Although I will say this, so one strategy to take into a postseason game, because you're in the playoffs, if you're the lower seeded team and you do waiver priorities, you could easily say cut the Eagles defense this week because you didn't want to play them. I'm just throwing that one out there.
Whatever.
Or the Steelers defense.
Whatever.
You didn't want to play them this week.
Yeah.
You're going to have first priority next week. You can just pick them back up if it's that.
Yeah. You have free reigns to go in and out.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
2 Monday night games next week.
Yeah, they're not great.
One at 8 and one at 8:30. Bears at Vikings. You're going to play the
Vikes D all day long.
Vikings defense. The Bears haven't won a road game all year.
Haven't they? Wow. And they're in shambles, too. I mean, I almost feel for him. That guy was a position coach 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Became a coordinator, became a head coach. Like, come on, man.
The Vikings made curb stomp them in this one.
Yeah, they'll destroy them.
Yeah.
But the Bears D used to be good, but I can't play them.
Can't hold up. It's just on the field too much. And the other game, the 8:30 game, is Falcons at Raiders.
Like Falcons and Commanders were the two bad defenses that are playing awful
Falcons
teams.
have the most sacks in the league.
Yeah, they're starting to get after the passer a little bit. Yeah, you hope Kirk Cousins doesn't throw a pick six.
It may not. Aiden O'Connell may not be ready to play, so
I'd be shocked if he is.
So you may be looking at.
But those are like the only streamers I heard. You know, the guys that are probably out there.
Yeah,
Commanders and Falcons.
Yeah,
it's better than some of those good ones. There's a lot of good teams playing good teams.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right,
it's that time of the year here where they're starting to get the matchups and.
Like you're happy about owning the Seahawks, D, but now you got the Packers. Like,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so you can also take a little look ahead at this time of year and try to plan things out.
Yeah. Playoffs, obviously, right?
Yeah, and it's not the worst idea to look at your opponent or your future opponents or potential future opponents and block them.
Yeah, there's definitely some blocking. Playing some defense, I think, is smart.
It's that time of year, like you're not going to use your number 4 wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So if your opponent's missing a running back or his star running, like block him on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a ton of fab, why are you sitting on it?
Yeah.
If you happen to be like the first team, the one that just got into the playoffs, grab the best guy and don't start him. You know, whatever, right?
You're just blocking. You don't want to play against him.
Right. I mean, I'm not big on this strategy, but there is one league I'm probably going to do it because Brooks and Goddard just went to IR. There's nobody I really wanted out there. And, like, Winston is clearly the best quarterback. I don't need him, but, like, I got an IR spot. I just don't want anyone else to have him.
Right.
Yeah, I'll pick up a third quarterback just so he doesn't go anywhere else. You know?
Yeah, somebody else beat you with him.
Yeah, I mean, don't sit there with an IR spot.
He has a game like he had against the Broncos and throws for 520.
Capable, you know, he's
3
going to throw
touchdowns.
a ton.
You know?
Right. I mean, it's kind of a quarterback-starved league, and for whatever reason, and he's still sitting out there, and he's the best guy out there. Like, better than having an empty roster spot.
Looking at some of those waiver wire pickups this week, Tank Bigsby still only rostered in 46% of leagues.
I think he should be in all.
He should be in there.
Yeah. I mean, he got the bulk of the carries.
They're not great, but
no.
Here's what he's got the next couple. He's got the Jets this week.
Okay.
They're not great against the run.
No, who knows what their motivation is, too.
Next week, the Raiders.
Good.
And then the Titans again.
Okay.
So it's not a bad schedule.
No. I would think you want to feature him, too, if you're the Jags.
We talked about this guy last week, and we got a better look at what he does. Sincere McCormick, 15% rostered.
He should be in all.
That was up from like 1% last week.
Yeah. I mean, just because no one knows ever heard of him. But yeah.
No, I mean, they would be dumb not to run him the rest of the way.
Yeah, and he can catch the ball a little bit, too, and, you know.
Here's their schedule. Atlanta.
Nice.
Jacksonville.
Real nice.
At New Orleans.
Huh, okay.
That's 3 pretty good defenses to run against. Now, Ritter may be the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with the fly in the ointment there. Although, at some point, O'Connell's got a bone bruise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he misses this week. Maybe he's back against Jacksonville.
Okay.
Or maybe they say, you know what? We're in a number 1 quarterback slot right now. We're in the number one. We get the number 1 overall pick.
I bet they're
Let's not mess that up.
To lose that. Yeah. Although they could still win one of those games. I mean, that's not the worst schedule in the world either.
It's not, but they've got a 1-game lead on those teams. But you don't. All right, so if you beat Atlanta or you beat New Orleans, so be it. You don't want to beat Jacksonville.
Right.
Now you get the tiebreaker against them, so they.
Yeah. Well, the Giants would probably sneak into that one spot then too. Is like Michael Mayer maybe worth picking up?
We'll get to that.
I'm just thinking sneaky Raiders because of the schedule.
Maybe.
Because Myers and Brock Bowers are in the league.
Isaiah Davis is 11% rostered.
I have a feeling they're going to split.
I think Breece Hall is back this week.
And plus, I think Hall's back soon.
Yeah, and that he goes away.
I would think.
Jaleel McLaughlin, 13% rostered. He should be rostered more than that.
I would think. It's just a big committee there, though.
It is, but Estime seems to kind of.
It was a flash in the pan, I think. But they're coming off a bye. Do they look at things differently? I don't know.
They've got Indianapolis, the Chargers, and Cincinnati coming up. So it's not.
I mind Cincy. I don't like the Chargers.
Yeah, Indy's okay.
They're all right.
Yeah, they get all those tackles, but they're all 8%
right,
field.
Right.
Kendre Miller, 4% rostered. He got some run last week.
Yeah, I think this staff's excited about him. I don't know why you'd beat up Kamara at this stage of the game, but they're not a very good offense.
Yeah. They got Washington at Green Bay and then Vegas.
And I think Spencer Rattler's going to start.
For New Orleans? Yeah, okay, you're right. I was thinking Ritter, but they may.
I'm not sure if it's going to be him.
I mean, they get somebody else on the roster, too.
He's not the 2 on game day, but when Carr was out, they wanted to take a look, and they took the look, and I don't know that it was. It was horrendous. So I don't know who the starter's going to be, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah. Patrick Taylor, 4% rostered.
Maybe
Guarendo's hurt.
Right. I get the impression they're going to committee it more than Shanahan does because they're so far down.
Yeah.
But
he was the guy they activated last week.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
if
he might get the most of that committee.
I would think, but a sneaky move, I didn't realize it, but he was getting picked up in everyone in my Dynasty League, is Izzy Abaconda. They picked him up off the Jets practice
squad. They signed him,
a week ago.
Right.
And he is a perfect fit for a Shanahan offense. But, I mean, I don't know. He's been a Niner for 10 days or something.
They got the Rams at the Dolphins and then Detroit. So
not great.
Not great.
I don't know how much Guarendo's going to miss.
Wide receiver, Elijah Moore's still just 22% rostered.
Is Tillman ever coming back?
I would assume he's back this week.
Soon, yeah. I thought he'd be back last week, maybe.
So,
I mean, but still Moore, they throw the ball a ton.
They got Kansas City at home this week, at Cincinnati, and then Miami.
So, I mean, he's more of a bye week guy, and we're out of that. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe he got hit hard with injuries.
I can't go to Valdez-Scantling because their quarterback situation is a mess.
Just when he was kind of emerging.
Quentin Johnston's 40% rostered.
It's just the fact that somebody has to catch the ball.
Yeah.
And he does have talent. I don't think he'll ever live up to his draft slot.
I like the next guy better. Josh Palmer, 16% rostered. I just trust him more.
I would bet McConkey's back.
And
he was like a game time decision.
And Palmer's he's the guy that's been there with Herbert the longest.
Mm-hmm. So no, I would prefer Palmer to Johnston.
Yeah. They got Tampa Bay, Denver, New England.
Not great.
Rashad Bateman, 25% rostered.
Deontay's not in the mix, but
yeah,
they're going to feature the tight end.
That's a complete dart. That's a DFS play.
Mm-hmm.
You're just hoping.
Cheap.
Yeah.
I guess the Giants this week.
Ray McLeod, 18% rostered.
It's on the field a lot.
They got Vegas, the Giants, and Washington coming up.
Pitts isn't getting the ball. It's going to him.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, though, we're out of bye weeks.
You're never going to start him.
You're never going to start any of these guys. You were talking about cutting your 4th receiver. These guys are 6th receivers.
Yeah.
You know?
He did have a 29.7% target share last week.
Yeah, I know.
But that was because that's the Vikings. The Vikings are blitzing like crazy. Yeah. You're getting the ball.
Cousins was when he hit. And right. He gets the ball, but how are you going to use him?
Yeah. Xavier Legette is 28% rostered. They got Dallas, Arizona, Tampa Bay. That's a nice schedule.
Mm-hmm. Of all the names, I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
They want to play him. I think Thielen's in a couple leagues still out there. Shouldn't be, no. Looking at the tight ends, Juwan Johnson, 10% rostered. I can't go there with the quarterback situation. Hunter Henry still 40% rostered. It's okay.
Yeah.
2 touchdown dependent for my liking, but
right. That's what you're hoping for there.
Tight ends are grim.
Just grim.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I mean, of course, no one cares about my fantasy team, but it was 2 weeks ago. I had Goddard, and he was looking good. So I put in for Taysom Hill. I'm like, why is he out there? I'm going to steal him from the rest of my league. They both go out for the year the same Sunday. There's nothing out there. So I pick up Johnson from the Saints. He was fine this week, and then his guy's gone.
So going to Grand Calcaterra.
There's like nothing out there. Right.
The backup tight end for the Chargers.
He's interesting.
What's his name?
He's got a good name.
There's like Stone or whatever it is. I can't think of the name.
Stone Smart.
Yeah, there you go. Stone Smart.
He flashes.
He's a receiving
athlete,
tight end.
Disley's out. Somebody's got to catch the ball.
Yeah,
that's not bad. That's a good DFS pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that one. But that's going to do it for the fantasy football focus for today. If you're in your playoffs, good luck. If you're not in your playoffs, don't pick up guys. Drives me nuts. But yeah, if you have nothing to play for, stop. You're not playing anymore. Go play DFS. But anyways, I'm Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And you're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, Matt, it is Power Ranking Day.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take a look at Eric Edholm's Power Rankings here on NFL.com. And we have a new number 32.
No, the Jags won.
Jaguars won.
Wasn't the most impressive win of all time, but hey, a win's a win, I guess.
Win is a win.
Giants have to be last.
Now at number 32, down one spot, are the New York. I can't call them the New York Football Giants because they really don't play football anymore. They're really just bad. The Giants.
Do you think he gets fired?
No.
I don't either. I think he gets another shot.
Yeah.
But I bet there's wholesale change, or bet there's changes.
There's changes, yeah.
Yeah.
Has to be. At 31, down a spot.
Raiders?
The Raiders.
Okay. They're pretty miserable.
This is what's killing the Steelers right now.
Right.
In terms of, because.
Well, the Bengal win helped.
The Bengal win helped last night, but the Steelers are right now in the 3 spot, even though they have the same record as the Bills, because of it goes to like the 4th tiebreaker, strength of victory.
Yeah. So that means a lot.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if the Bills lose in Detroit.
At 30, down 2 spots, the Tennessee Titans.
Are they worse than the Jags? I know they just played, and
they were worse on Sunday.
Yeah. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. At 29, up 3 spots are the Jaguars. I mean, you just beat them.
Let's not.
They'll play the rematch in a few weeks.
Yeah, they'll end up 31 or whatever.
Yeah. At 28, up a spot, New England.
Just by sitting around watching these guys be bad, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Out of sight, out of mind. At 27, holding steady, are the New York Jets.
That's how bad they are. They're slightly better than that group we just talked about that are all really bad first overall type teams.
One of the New York writers, I think it was Rick Samini, went through and looked. This is the worst combined record for the 2 New York teams in over 50 years.
Can't get much worse.
They're awful.
Yeah, it's bad for the league.
Do better, New York.
Yeah.
At 26, holding steady, the Carolina Panthers.
Might even have them better.
They played well the last month.
It's been a month of
they haven't
football.
won,
right? Which is good for them overall in a way. I mean, they took the Eagles down to the brink. We're not going to talk about the Eagles for quite a while.
Yeah, they have their quarterback. So actually, if anywhere they finish in the top 10, they're going to be happy. They don't need to be number 1.
Right. I would have a massive offseason dedicated to defense.
At 25, holding steady, the Browns.
Those 2 teams are okay. They can hang with good teams.
At 24, down a spot, the Chicago Bears.
I think they're in a miserable spot. They've shown glimpses, but this was as bad a game.
They can't win a road game.
Yeah.
And not only do they not win the road games, they get crushed in these road games.
I think I'd have the Browns and Carolina ahead of them right
Remember
now.
when the draft happened, Caleb Williams is in the perfect landing spot. And
best situation ever.
Best situation. Look, they went and got these receivers, and it's great, and it's fantastic, and and they're the number 12 team in the power rankings, and they stink.
And they're terrible, right? I mean,
maybe it is the Bears and not the quarterbacks.
Yeah, same with the Jets, and I mean, there's some these iconic Giants, some of these iconic franchises can kind of sit on their laurels and make a ton of money. And
3 years from now, they will be drafting again in the top 10 and taking another quarterback and getting rid of Caleb Williams
and fire the coach that the year after.
Yeah,
I mean, how many coaching changes have they made?
Yuck. 23, up a spot, the Saints.
Yeah, but now if Carr's out, I don't think they beat the Browns or the Panthers.
No.
Right. I mean, they've done some good things since their coaching change, but I think that ship's
all they did was beat the Giants on a blocked field goal. Yuck. 22 down a spot, Dallas.
It's about where they're at. Their ownership might be taking a similar path, by the way, just being rich and happy.
At 21, up a spot, the Bengals. They very easily could have lost that game last night.
They absolutely could have. That was a total coin flip game and came down to a goofy punt move.
A punt getting blocked
works against you.
People were complaining about that online. I can't believe that they blocked a punt and because Dallas touched it, it went past the line of scrimmage. It's not technically not even a blocked punt. It's a deflected kick.
Right. So if someone just got a fingertip at it at the line of scrimmage,
once it goes
comes
past
to Calvin Austin and he fumbles it, same thing.
Once it goes past the line of scrimmage, all the same rules apply.
Exactly. I mean, again, someone comes in, tips the ball, and it's coming right to Calvin Austin. He can still return it for a touchdown,
right? Or
muff it, or fumble it, or do whatever right? How do you not? You got to know that rule.
You saw immediately their special teams coach, as soon as he saw the block, starts waving his hands. Nobody touch it. Nobody touch it. Somebody touched it.
It's that Igabogin, the corner that was drafted really late in the first round by the Dolphins. I guess they just pulled him up off the practice squad. I mean, has he ever been on the punt team? I don't know. I'm not going to look that much into it, but you got to know those things.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. The ball's rolling right at you and bouncing at you, and he's there. And if he recovers it, he's a hero.
Right.
Because they're basically almost in field goal range with less than 2 minutes left.
I don't give anyone a hard time for fielding that ball.
Reacting in the moment.
If it's perfect.
Yeah.
If it's like, this thing just hit me right in the chest, I could take it to the house, great. But it was like, like, no.
It's rough.
Run away. If someone's yelling, fire, 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 get away from this thing.
Yeah. At 20, down a spot, Atlanta.
They're soft and they keep losing.
Yeah. Hard to.
Yeah.
At 19, down a spot, Miami.
Defense wasn't great. I mean, it kind of took a step backwards. The passing game's been really good.
Yeah.
I might have them ahead of like the Colts.
They're going to lose this week.
Who do they have again?
Denver.
Probably. That's
they're in Houston. Atlanta's in.
They are in Houston.
They're in Houston. Yeah, they're going to lose.
It'll be a lot of points.
At 18, they're in Denver. 18 down a spot. Or no, Indianapolis is in Houston and Miami's in Denver. No, I get that.
I think Miami's playing Houston.
Yeah. Indianapolis is down a spot at 18.
Okay.
They're playing. Indianapolis is playing Denver.
Yeah.
In Denver.
They are.
They're going to lose.
I agree. But I think I'd have Miami over Indy. But I don't know. See what the Colts look like after the bye. Richardson.
17 up 3 spots. San Francisco.
They deserve to move up. I mean, they destroyed a bad team. I would have them ahead of all these teams. 16
down a spot, Arizona.
I may even have them lower. I think it's just getting to the point where we don't have any good players. You can only mask this thing and massage this thing so long.
At 15, up a spot, the Rams.
That's how I'd power rank that division, though.
Yeah.
I might have the Niners ahead of the Cardinals.
At 14, down a spot, Tampa Bay.
Well, these are all about the same.
Yeah, a lot of 500-ish teams.
Yeah, playoff fringe guys.
At 13, up a spot, Seattle.
They would be number one of anyone we've talked about so far. But their O-line's still bad.
And now we're into the top 12.
Okay.
These are the sort of good teams.
Yeah, the next 4 or 5 will be okay.
At 12, Houston.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Again, out of sight, out of mind, but I think that's good for that organization.
2 big ones coming up here toward the end of the season, Kansas City and Baltimore coming up.
Mm-hmm.
That same week that the Steelers,
the whole
Christmas rotation.
Yeah.
They can't lose them both.
The crisscross applesauce Christmas thing.
They're still only 2 games ahead of Indianapolis.
Now, I guess they could still squander it away.
Yeah. At 11, holding steady, Washington.
I worry about them, though. I think they're a better version of Arizona. Just don't have a lot of really good players.
They get New Orleans this week, though,
That's
so
nice.
they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. At 10, holding steady, Denver.
Good. They're better than everybody listed. They're better than the Texans right now.
As long as they don't have to have Levi Wallace on the field.
I don't know what Moss's status is.
I
didn't know if it was bad or what. I didn't look into it. But they're coming off a bye.
At 9, holding steady, the Chargers.
Yeah. Chargers versus Denver is really close to me.
Yeah. I like the Chargers better.
Similar makeup, but the lack of weapons in L.A. worries me.
Yeah. And then you're into your top 8, and I think the top 8 are the teams that can win.
They're the good teams.
They're the good teams. At 8, Baltimore.
Agreed.
At 7, down a spot, is Green Bay.
I say, where are you at on Baltimore versus Green Bay? I was about to ask that. I didn't know they were 7.
It would depend on where the game was played.
Yeah. I think Baltimore's best day is better than Green Bay's best day, but their worst days are bad.
They're
right.
They up
the
and down.
Inconsistencies.
They're very inconsistent. Yeah. At 6, up a spot, the Steelers.
Okay. Steelers versus Chiefs and Vikings is a conversation.
I think the Steelers are better than the Chiefs.
I lean that way too, and I think they might be better than the Vikings too.
At 5, holding steady, the Vikings.
Okay, figured as much. Chiefs are probably 4.
At 4, down 2 spots, Buffalo.
Oh, that's rough. I have a problem with that. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Stafford. I mean, it's one game.
What if they go to Detroit this week and also lose?
If it's a similar 50-49 type game.
Now you're starting to wonder about that defense a little bit.
A little. Okay, here's a bigger conversation. I think the Bills, I used to be really hard on them for not knowing what city they live in. You know, like you need to be, and you need All-Star, you need Bettis, you need to be a power team. Well, they fixed it on offense, but there's still a nickel finesse, Von Miller, front 7.
We're going to try to sack the quarterback, and
they don't really have a nose. You know, like in the Rams, like I have no problem losing to the Rams when you run into a Hall of Fame type quarterback that is dotting I's left and right and lighting you up. Okay. But when Kyron Williams is just ripping through you for 6 yards a carry, too, you didn't fix. That's what worries me about the defense.
Yeah.
You know,
they don't stop the run real well.
You're just light, and you play in nickel all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But it's weird. I think Josh Allen, rightfully so, his MVP case went up with a loss.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it'll go up with another loss in Detroit.
I just been thinking, like, how would Buffalo match up against the Steelers if the Steelers came out in 12 personnel?
I was thinking that too, right. I mean,
would they stay in their nickel?
Probably.
Okay, what happens when the Steelers come out in 13 personnel?
Right.
Now what? You staying in that nickel?
Well, I mean, I'm sure the Chiefs and those guys are taking notice too. I'd still have the Bills ahead of the Chiefs.
I would too.
And the Bills are 4, right?
Yeah.
And the Chiefs are not been mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. At 3, up a spot, are the Chiefs.
Okay.
I mean,
I think that's hard on the Bills.
They've been skating on the edge all season long.
Mm-hmm. There's an art to that, but they got some issues.
At 2, up a spot, Philadelphia.
I would have the Lions still ahead of them.
And Detroit is 1.
Lions D, though, is worse than either Philly unit.
The problem is the conundrum that you have against Detroit is, though, they can do this. They can skate by with that defense because they're going to score a bunch of points.
Mm-hmm.
They're
still getting a lot out of their
They're kind of built
guys.
like the Bills used to be built, except they can run the football.
Yeah, they play power football.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're going to play physical on defense and big, tough offensive line, and tackling Montgomery gets old and all that stuff.
And they can win the time of possession against you.
And their D coordinator's getting a lot out of those guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's come. I'd have to really study it, but I don't know who's going to come back, who's got for the year off that defense. You know, Lee McNeil and Branch got hurt last week. Are they out extended stretches? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one concern I had about Branch, and I love Branch in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not the biggest guy.
And throws the body around. It's close to the line of scrimmage a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Plays a really physical style.
Sure, which you love, but those guys don't last usually either.
Yeah, so. But that's Eric Edholm's power rankings.
You'd have the Steelers a little higher.
I would have them.
In the AFC, I'd have them behind the Bills ahead of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But right next to the Chiefs. I mean, it's not far.
Yeah. The Vikings.
I'm respecting the Vikings more and more.
I've been rough on the Vikings, but they just keep winning.
They keep winning, and Darnold is good, and they got a lot of weapons.
Now, they got some games coming up here that they're not going to finish with 2 losses.
I'm sure they won't.
They're not going to win that division.
But, I mean, like we do these power ranks every Tuesday. Most Tuesdays I say Minnesota's a little too high. Now I'm like, no, they belong with this crew. I think they're a pretty darn good team.
Yeah, they get the Bears this week. Okay, they should win that one. At home.
That's a Monday nighter.
Then they got to go to Seattle.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Because the thing that worries me about Minnesota, and it showed up against Atlanta, their protection's not very good. They're missing Darisaw. The interior wasn't great. Like, Seattle will light them up.
Yeah. Then they get the Packers at home, and they finish up at Detroit.
Ooh, those last three are hard.
Yeah.
And those are all playoff teams.
3 playoff teams in a row.
Yeah.
And
they're probably 2-2 rest of the way.
Darnold could turn into a pumpkin at any moment.
He could. I have a feeling he's going to be pretty rich this offseason.
I just don't trust him.
Trust is a big word with that, yeah.
But, right now they deserve to be 5.
Yeah. I mean, the versus Steelers is a conversation, too.
Yeah. But I would have Kansas City lower.
I think I'd have the Vikings ahead of the Packers.
I get it. The Kansas City's 12-1, and that's
of course
fantastic.
That's awesome.
But they don't pass the eye test. They just don't.
They don't. And I had a problem with, they got lucky with Matthew Wright. No, it went between the uprights. They got lucky with the bad snap. Maybe they had something to do with the block kick, but that's fringe.
Yeah.
The fact that it hit the upright and went in, that's not luck. I mean, he made the kick. That I don't have a problem with that. But, like the botched snap, and you should have a Raiders loss on your resume, which would taste a lot different.
A lot different.
Right.
Talked to Baltimore about that one.
Right. I mean, they lost the Raiders last year.
That's one of the Raiders' 2 wins this year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's over the Ravens in Baltimore.
We talked about the Raiders half an hour ago in this segment.
Yeah. Can't lose those ones.
But they should have lost that game.
That's the one, in the past, last year, for example, you hear it from Steelers. Well, you shouldn't lose to the Patriots. You shouldn't lose to the Cardinals.
Sure.
Back-to-back games. That's kind of what the Ravens did this year.
Yeah. It was a similar stretch.
At least, the Steelers lost to a decent Colts team in their place.
Yeah.
And you lost to the Cowboys when they were
better than now.
Better than they are right now, for sure.
Yeah. And way better than their real downtime.
That's why you went to Russell Wilson at quarterback, by the way. You only scored 17 points in that game against the Cowboys at home.
Yeah.
You got to do better.
And frankly, the Browns loss doesn't bother me that much either.
Short week in
a brutal place, and you didn't play great.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So, anyways, that was Eric Edholm's Power Rankings. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley, and this is the Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back to finish up the show right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, I was just looking here at we just went over Eric Edholm's NFL Power Rankings on NFL.com, and he had an interesting little thing here leading off his Power Rankings, and it's the best one-score records in the league this season.
Okay. Philly's really good, by the way.
Yeah, they're 7-1.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are number 1.
Of course, they have
10-0.
one loss, right?
10-0, and that's the thing, though. So they're 12-1 overall, but they're 10-0 in one-score games.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've played a ton of one-score games, is the point.
Yeah.
You're right. So this is a weird conversation, but one-score games to me is 8 points.
Right. That's what he's considering this.
But I kind of think that's 2 scores. I mean, that's how everyone does it. But that's a pretty big gap. I mean, most games are decided by 8 points.
True.
Which I almost think 3-point game would be a better barometer, and nobody does it that way.
No.
But
or even a 6-point game.
Because I mean, if someone's a 7.5-point favorite, you're like, well, it's a lot of points. Well, it's still one score game.
Right.
I mean, if you push on it or whatever, it can be a little misleading. But the Chiefs play a lot of close games.
The Eagles are 7-1 in such games. They're 11-2 overall.
Okay.
The Vikings are 7-1 in those games. They're 11-2 overall.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions are 6-1 in one-score games. They're 12-1 overall.
Okay.
So they've just blown the doors off
there's a lot of big
people.
wins there.
Yeah.
Did you say the Chiefs have played 10?
10.
I bet they're near the top of the league in number of games played. Cincy's probably high too. Number of ones, not the record, just number of games. I bet they're near the top.
Yeah, Cincy would have to be.
It'd have to be close.
Yeah, their point differentials. They're +3 now, and they're 5-8.
Yeah.
The Packers are 5-3 in one-score games. They're 9-4 overall. The Steelers are 6-3 in one-score games. They're 10-3 overall.
I mean, with them, you had 2 3-point losses.
Yeah.
So you lost.
And the other one was 5.
Yeah.
The Ravens in one-score games.
I bet they're bad.
What do you think they are? They're 8-5 overall.
6-3, 6-4,
5-5.
Yeah. Okay. I was almost going to say under 500, but I'm like, it can't be. They have a winning record.
Close enough.
Right.
The Bills have only played 5 one-score games. They're 10-3 overall.
They lost one last week.
They're 3-2.
Okay. They blow people out. I mean, the fact that they only played 5.
And they also got blown out.
Mm-hmm.
In one of those losses to the
Yeah.
Ravens. And Ed Holmes thought the only teams that stand out on either end are all in the AFC.
KC.
He said these numbers suggest the Bills, Ravens, and Steelers are perhaps better than their overall records indicate. On the opposite end, Kansas City might indeed be overachieving.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs 10-0 mark in one-score games ties an all-time record. If you remember, that record was set a couple of years ago by the Vikings.
Right.
Who rattled off they were 14-3 or something like
and
that.
Didn't pass the sniff test.
And they got beat by the Giants in the opening round of the playoffs at home,
which wasn't a good Giants team.
No,
I mean that was
Daboll's
first year.
Yeah, Daniel Jones
gave him the big contract, and that ended up being bad for the Giants.
So when we talk about the Chiefs maybe being a little overrated, that's why.
And it's 100% true. But what's different, obviously, is that Vikings team didn't have Pat Mahomes and coming off back-to-back titles.
But as we said yesterday, Mahomes didn't do anything to make the Raiders blow a snap.
Exactly.
He
Exactly.
didn't block a punt or block a field goal against Denver.
Sure.
He didn't do any of that stuff. And in both of those games, they didn't score a lot of points.
Mm-mm. No, I think Ed Holmes' point about Ravens, Steelers, Bills, because they're slightly above 500 in one-score games, might be better than you think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
sometimes it does come down to just a bounce or a penalty or whatever.
Right.
In some cases, everyone's one-score.
They don't have every. He just had
the top teams.
The top teams. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And again, I would love to do 3 points or less. I mean, if you win a game by 7, you probably controlled a lot of it. Or you got.
I don't know. The Bengals won by 7 last night.
That's a bad example.
Yeah.
Or like the Rams. Getting they just happen to have the ball last. Or, so there's some of that sometimes.
Yeah.
Too,
or you're up 14 points, or maybe you're up 15 points, and they get an by the way touchdown at the end. At
Blake Bortles, garbage time stuff.
Yeah. He was the king of garbage time.
He was best. Yeah. Way better for fantasy than the real world.
I had him on my fantasy team that year, and he would have nothing in the first half of the game.
Oh yeah, because they were bad.
And then he'd end up throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half.
Scramble for 30 yards, and no one cares against
prevent. Blake Bortles, right? I'm like, did you really watch what happened there? Because he wasn't good.
No, but you can manipulate the fantasy world a little bit that way.
Little bit. Yeah. So Steelers get this big game this week against Philadelphia, and I was talking with Jerry Dulac about this today when we did our post-Tomlin wrap-up show, and I look at this stretch of games a little bit differently now than I did when the schedule came out.
I prioritize this one the least. I don't know if that's where you're going with this or not.
No, I'm this 3-game stretch where they play Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
When the schedule came out, I looked at that and that's going to make or break their season. I don't look at it the same way now.
That's kind of where I was going through it. I just probably phrased it differently. Their season's kind of already made or broke. I mean, it was kind of made. If they lose bad to Philly, and this is not how the Steelers operate, but if I'm on the fence about should I play Pickens or not, I really want them 2 weeks from now. I mean, if you lose an NFC game this week, even if it's ugly, the sun will come up tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden the wheels are coming off after this game with injuries galore and Pickens ripped his hamstring or whatever, and it's like, uh-oh. Because you're going to get another win or two.
Right.
I mean, I'm
here's the thing.
At least one.
If they win 2 of these last 4, they probably win the division.
Yeah, probably. I know you were fiddling with the playoff thing.
I was looking at some playoff simulators, or not the little.
I think that's what they call
possibilities.
It, yeah.
Let's say you lose this game this week, but you go 2-1 in the final 3 weeks.
You take it.
As long as even if you lose to Baltimore down there, but you then beat the Chiefs and you beat the Bengals,
you still get an AFC North game.
You win the division.
Yeah. And basically, if you beat the Ravens, you probably win the division.
If you beat the Ravens, you've won the division.
Is that mathematically true?
That would
if
be
you're 1-3.
Yeah,
and you
because
beat them?
they can't catch you in the division standings. You would have the tiebreaker.
Because you swept them, and that makes sense. You have a 2-game lead. They could
with 2 left.
They could get 4 wins in that stretch. Steelers could get 1, but you'd be tied.
That would be the only way that the Steelers don't win the division from this point on.
3 wins.
The Ravens would have to go 4-0. The Steelers would have to go 1-3.
Okay. Yeah.
And lose both of
They can't, though.
And lose both of the division games.
Right. I see what you're saying. Right. So if you beat the Ravens, you win the title. You win the division. Yeah.
Even if you lose to the Ravens, but you then either beat Philadelphia or Kansas City, you win the division, as long as you beat the Bengals in Week 18.
Mm-hmm. Now, catching the Bills is going to be difficult.
Right.
I mean, real difficult. But you're not going to fall to the 4 seed. You're probably going to end up at the 3 seed.
Probably so.
Something weird would have to happen. Either you go on a run, good or bad.
Yeah.
But you're probably, I mean, I'm sure the Vegas odd makers or Cynthia Freeland or whoever could tell you an 82% chance the Steelers end up at the 3 seed. And whatever that number is, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
It's pretty high.
So it's not because the work, most of the hay is in the barn now for the regular season.
Exactly. And winning these division games has been really helpful too. You know?
The fact that you're 10-3 right now. I mean, I can remember going into this and people, they better at least have 8 wins going into that stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you do. Right.
They've done better than that.
You got a lot of money in the bank. Like if you would have slipped up against the Bengals or Browns, this would be a much different conversation.
Absolutely.
You took care of that business against teams you know well that I think you're better than, although Vegas disagreed with us on the Bengal game for whatever reason. But
they disagree with the Jets too, and that didn't make any sense.
Yeah. But no, they're in really good shape.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't – and even if these next 4 games don't go great, you're 1-3, and we do power ranks on Tuesday, and they're 12th. They're not looking as good as they used to be.
I don't know if they could fall to 12.
I don't know.
I mean, they would be an 11-win team.
You'd have to have bad losses.
Yeah, they'd have to be
Chiefs
awful.
And Eagles and,
yeah.
10-plus point losses.
They haven't had those. I mean, that's the thing.
That would surprise me.
You know,
or a rash of injuries.
They've lost their games by combined 11 points. Mm-hmm. They're
they're going to play the Ravens tight.
Right. The point differential
Chiefs don't blow
says that they're a good team.
This is a game, I think, if they get blown out, it's this one.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's not really how they're built either. The defense is really good.
Yeah, and Philadelphia is a team that wants to run the football.
Yeah. Shorten the game.
It matches up well with what you do well. Mm-hmm. Stopping the run.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, this is going to be big boy football this week.
It is. It is going to be the rest of the way, too. Chiefs are a physical team. You know what the Ravens are. You hope that the Bengals game either doesn't matter or they don't care, you know.
Yeah.
Go host a game.
If you had to, hey, we're going to sit Russell Wilson. We got everything wrapped up. We're going to sit Russell Wilson this game. You can still go out there and win with Justin Fields.
Exactly. I've been thinking about that for a while. That how much do you play Cam in Week 18, and maybe Wilson's inactive, and okay,
But somebody suggested
especially if you beat the Ravens, like you said, if you beat the Ravens, you just do that.
Somebody suggested on the message board, they should just rest guys this week and just take the loss to the Eagles. I'm like, hey, they're never going to do that. Not with 4 games left.
And that's not what's going on with Pickens.
No.
But if it's 50-50, I would lean towards resting him for this one, the way the schedule.
I don't even think it's 50-50.
But I don't think it is. I mean, I think he's just
not even close.
Right. Yeah.
So
I don't think he can play this week.
Yeah. That's going to do it for the show today, Matt.
All right.
So let's get we'll be back again tomorrow. Again, you can hear the drive every day from 4 to 6 p.m. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here running the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tyler Vittmeyer making sure our video gets out there on YouTube. Check that out. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.